I will talk about three main examples. I will take three main examples from the fields of knowledge, from things that I know the best. I'll talk about health and the question of HIV, the impact of the cuts on equality issues, on the equality agenda, and also the pension rights in France as a comparison with situation here. So, yeah, I know the HIV field because I've been an activist with ACT UP in Paris, and I think we can use the example of HIV and how the health system is very unfair. Since HIV appeared, the pharmaceutical industry has become one of the richest in the world. So I can think only about Pfizer that made also maybe more profit with Viagra, but apart from that, I think most of the molecules about HIV or even cancer or like serious pathologies have benefited a lot to the pharmaceutical industry. And this is not because they made the research on the medication, on the molecules. Most of the molecules actually have been found with public research. So what happens is that actually they buy the copyright of the molecules to then fabricate medication. And when they commercialize it, then they put very high prices because they know that it's often serious disease that people will do anything they can to access. So actually, apart from profit, there's no real justification for the very high price of ARV treatment for HIV or even other serious pathologies. And the impact of that on the global level is that many people die in the global south because they don't have a welfare system like in the global north. With the support of the EU and US governments that are backing all the companies to protect the copyright and the patent. But it also has an impact on us in the north, not in terms of access to the treatment, but on the cost, on the NHS, on the welfare system. And that's something that people often never talk about. We always are felt guilty because we are not responsible enough. We need to spend less money on health, etc. But actually, one good way to save money on health would be maybe to ban the intellectual property on medication, for example. So yeah, I think that's an example about how the NHS, the social security system, is affected. And yeah, that's the example with HIV, but it's true for most medications actually about serious pathology. The impact on equalities, all the anti-cuts agenda. There are many community groups, and in the labour movement we try to raise the issue around that because officially now we have a government that is, for example, pro-LGBT, when in the past they were openly homophobic. Now they will say that they are pro-equality agenda for all minorities and all that. But the thing is, they are cutting all the services, all the funding to all the organizations that are working for the equality agenda. But not only that, most of the cuts they do have also an impact on the most vulnerable populations in the country. So again, for the HIV example, there are 49% of cuts on HIV services when we know that we have had a decade of 80% increase in infection among gay men. And it's exactly at that moment that they are cutting by 1/2 all the work on prevention and access to services like testing and all that. We can give example of domestic violence, rape crisis centers, the loss of benefits for disabled people, single mothers, the lack of funding to investigate hate crimes, the lack of funding on education, and we know that, for example, I know that for LGBT people, most of the attacks are made by teenagers, but by very young people. And these young people actually don't have access to, I think should be like, well educated, like about diversity and equality, feminism, LGBT rights and all that. But also there's a lot of suicides among LGBT teenagers, and same thing, I think as a state, as a welfare system, we should also intervene to try to fight bullying at school and try to stop to stop people killing themselves. So the last example on pension, one of the good things we have in France politically is that people fight a lot on social rights. So we can be very bad on other issues, like for example we have 20% of our rights, but at least on this thing on social rights, I think French people resist a lot. So for example, last year when Sarkozy tried to pass the age of retirement from 60 to 62, what happened is that half of the country actually went on strike. And it was funny because we often say that people who work in public services are lazy and they don't work enough and all that, but suddenly when they're on strike and the country is paralyzed, when they complain, they realize that actually people are working. So yeah, I mean, the pension, there's a lot of issues around inequalities, wealth production and all that. Often they say, yeah, we live longer, so we need to pay more and all that, but actually what is not taken into account is that in the last 50, 60 years, the production of wealth has dramatically increased, and that's not taken into account in the debate, when actually there is money. I mean, there is money for pensions. I want to mention the 68 is too late campaign. So I don't know if you've all heard of about it, but it's a campaign supported by LRC, so you can find the model of the motion. And I encourage everyone to send to your trade union branches, your CLP branches if you're a member of the Labour Party, and like all the JTU bodies you know. Well, I will finish by saying that I think this alternative to the cuts, I think we can increase the taxes on rich people. I've seen this morning a graphic on Facebook, because I'm a bit addicted with Facebook. But it's really telling, because you have a percentage of taxation of very high incomes, and it shows that in the early 20th century it was around like 90%. And then it decreased a lot to the end of the 20s, and then suddenly there's been a big recession. And then after the war, then the taxes increased a lot again to the level like 70%, because people had to find money to pay the debt and rebuild the country and all that. And then it decreased until nowadays, and then we again end up in a big recession. And I think it's quite telling, because the problem is not that, the problem of the debt is not caused by the welfare system. The problem of the debt is caused by a decrease in taxes, in contribution to the welfare system. So I will finish, because I passed the time, just to say that by being involved in the LRC, being involved in the labour movement, and yeah, resist. If you have questions of sex workers' rights, I can answer the question. Sorry, I didn't say much about that, but I'm happy to answer any questions, because indeed we are very concerned by the cuts, and we need a lot of the welfare system. Yeah.